Hello, this is Pauline. It's Monday, the 20th of May, 2024. Just want to talk a little bit today about myself and my life. I come from a large family from Northern Ireland, and I was in the middle, fifth down from the top. I found it quite hard to sometimes be heard with a lot of voices talking, and often I would find myself just being quiet, and I was often described as quiet, and I really didn't like that. I didn't like that my teacher used to put too quiet, Pauline is too quiet on my school reports. Because often I would just be in my own world. I was, I think I was, quite deep and thoughtful, and it was easier for me to just be quiet and not say too much. But then after a while, I actually found it hard to speak. And oftentimes could go long periods without actually saying anything. But now I feel called. I'm being called to speak. And it makes me really emotional. Because I know that my voice is needed. There are words, there is energy that needs to come through me. And if I don't speak, then that's not going to happen. So here I am. After all this time, I've had a difficult life. My mother died when I was 11, suddenly. And that was like the end of my childhood, in a way, really, because before that, everything, it felt like it was fine. I was playing outside like children used to do years ago. We used to play outside. There was no internet. We just played outside, and we really didn't need anything else. But when my mother died, everything changed overnight. There were 8 children in my family, and my father, was totally thrown by that completely, understandably. He couldn't understand how God could let that happen. But I feel now that my mother dying was meant to happen, and it happened. It happened because it was meant to happen at that time. It taught me about forgiveness, because I was angry at her. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was angry because she left. My father found it really difficult to cope, and he wasn't coping really very well at all. And he found it difficult with me because I looked so much like my mother. And for him, it was painful for him to even look at me because it reminded him of her. He was quite critical of me, and it knocked my self-confidence. I mean, I know he was only trying to do what he could. He was only doing what he knew to do. You know. So we helped each other. We grew up together and we helped each other, and we tried our best to kind of cope and manage. We went to school. I mean, I got good grades. I ended up getting 2 degrees. But I was kind of always searching for the meaning of life, for something more. I was searching for something more because I knew there was something more. I thought there has to be something more. But from a young age, probably 12, 11, 12, I knew I was going to be a writer. I knew I was supposed to write about my life story. And I've been struggling, to be honest. I've been struggling with it because I'm like, how do I write about this? But I feel that when I do write about it, it'll help me, not only me, to deal and process everything that happened to me, but it's meant for other people. It's not just meant for me. Because sometimes I feel, well, who am I? Who am I to write my life story? Who's going to be interested in my life story? But then there's so many things that I've learned, and experienced that I know I'm being called. I'm being called to share my story, and even though, to be honest, it scares the hell out of me. But I've got to do it. And I've made it this far. And I mean, quite honestly, there've been moments when I actually just didn't want to be here anymore. I have experienced anxiety and depression. I had what was labeled as a psychotic depression when I was 36. And for 10 years after that, it took a long, long time to recover from that experience. And to be honest, at 36, I actually thought my life was over. And looking back now, that's, it wasn't. I mean, I'm still only really getting started now. I mean, but at 36, I actually thought my life was over. I mean, I thought that was it for me because I never really found what I was supposed to be doing because I was never able, well, I wouldn't say never, but nothing seemed to work for me. I mean, I tried to get jobs and jobs that I was overqualified for and couldn't get. It was like rejection after rejection after rejection my whole life. I mean, I lost confidence. I lost my confidence and I lost my self esteem, particularly having a mental illness because there's such a taboo. There's such a taboo about mental illness that people really, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want people to know. But I don't see why that's the case because if you had something wrong with your body, like you wouldn't feel ashamed about going to the doctor and saying you had broken your arm. But for some reason, when it comes to mental health, there's a taboo about it, like, oh no, don't say you've got a mental illness. Don't tell anybody, for heaven's sake. You know, it's so shameful. There's such shame associated with mental illness. And I've carried this shame all my life. And I realized this shame, it wasn't even mine. It was ancestral shame. Shame that was carried down in my family line for generations. So, it seems like I have to heal this ancestral shame. It isn't really mine, but I'm carrying for my ancestors. And you know, the best way to heal shame is to actually talk about what you're shamed about. I mean, mental illness is something you can recover from. It's not a life sentence. You know, like I say, I'm a late bloomer. I mean, I'm only getting started now. I feel like I've wasted so many years of my life. I held myself back. You know, because I was afraid. I mean, when I was growing up, my father had so much fear. There's always fear about everything. Oh, be careful, watch yourself. He used to say that when you're going out the door, he'd say, watch yourself now. Watch yourself. It was all this fear about, oh, you wouldn't want, wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want to do that. Oh, I wouldn't go there. I certainly wouldn't put a video up on social media. So here I am. And I hope that if you're experiencing grief or loss or mental illness, that you know there are things that you can do. You can heal, you can recover. I'm still here. And there's a reason. There's a reason I'm still here. And I came here for a reason. And I want to answer the call. So, if you've got a calling on your life, don't run from it. Because you'll be happier once you actually start and actually answer the call. So if you're anything like me and you're scared, well, you know what they say? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Because we're only here a short time and we don't want to waste our lives. The precious time that we have here. Because there are people that are waiting on us, that are waiting on me to show up. So, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Be yourself and don't be afraid. In the words of Seamus Heaney, the great poet from Northern Ireland, and his dying words were, "No lay to Mary. Don't be afraid."